And that's us recording. Tim Loane, you're very welcome to the written word. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very glad to be here.
Good to see you. So my only question, as ever, is what are you reading, or do you listen to podcasts, or what's your consumption of written word?
It's too much reading that I have to do is to do with work.
Yeah.
So I'm always checking out. So I have a stack of books beside my bed of about 20 books, most of which I've read like 2 or 3 chapters. And I go, either I've got what I want out of it, or I didn't find it interesting enough to stay with it, or or I go, oh shit, I better go on it because I got to read that. So right as it happens, right beside me, I happen to have that I'm starting to read. Just that was the irony of or the coincidence is this guy. Can you see that?
Yep.
This guy, I just listened to him. He was on Talkback an hour ago.
Oh, okay.
So this book, I read some review of it. But anyway, this book is only just out. Anyway, for research purposes, I end up, you're always looking for something that prompts an idea or gives you some angle that you wouldn't have got otherwise. So almost everything that I read is for work. I haven't said that for pleasure. Again, a remarkable coincidence. Only 4.5 minutes ago, I was listening to Glenn Patterson on Radio 4 there.
Yeah.
For pleasure, currently I'm reading Glenn's most recent novel, Where Are We Now, which is very pleasant. I'm enjoying it very much. I wish I could. For me, reading for pleasure is what I do on holidays.
Yeah.
And I get very serious, very careful about it if I'm going. Fuck, do you remember holidays? If I was ever going somewhere for 2 weeks, I would go, right, okay, I'm going to need at least 2 books, right? And I want one that's serious. I want one that's escapist. And of course, I would never get them all read, but I would spend so much time making sure, and I would ask people's advice, is that good or is it really good? Because I don't want to waste my time. Do you know what I mean? I want to make sure that it's the book that I want to read. And those are my favorite reading memories, are ones that I read on holidays, I suppose. But I suppose I should start listening to podcasts. I have listened to 1 or 2, and I have spoken on 1 or 2, but my kids laugh at me. They kind of go, you're so bloody old fashioned. But I kind of go, no, if the radio's on, I want it now.
Yeah.
Somebody said yesterday, I want to hear what they say today. So I still think of radio or podcast or, listening to shit. I still think as immediate. It's now. Even if there's something on that, a comedy or something on the radio that I'm listening to, and it's halfway through, shit, the phone rings. Damn it, I really wanted to hear the rest of that. I won't go back looking for it. There's no point in that. You know what I mean? I'll wait till next week's. So anyway, my kids tell me that I'm losing out an awful lot, and they keep sending me, you should listen to this, you should listen to this, because it really does seem to be the new way, especially the younger generation is consuming stuff. But the other bit that I find drives me completely mad is there's so much out there.
It's fast.
It's too much, but it's like you're always, the FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Let me see. Can I do FOCU? Sounds like a little bit like fuck you. I've just made this up right now. Fear of catching up, or fear of not FONCU, fear of not catching up.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? Because you go, shit, right? I missed 1 episode of something on TV. Even that's the Netflix thing as well. At any one time, people tell you 15 things that you should be watching. So you sit down, you go through, you mark them, go, yep, that one I'm going to watch. You can't possibly watch them all unless you stop working completely.
Yeah.
So the podcasting hasn't got me yet, or rather, I've resisted it. But then I suppose
give it time.
Yeah, I mean that's maybe the same because I am old-fashioned in many ways about a lot of that stuff. I don't do social media at all.
Yeah.
I opened a Facebook page 10, 15 years ago just to see what it was like, and went, oh God, Jesus, and I ran away from it.
Yeah.
Similarly with Twitter. But then I have mates who tell me that I'm the last person in the world should ever go on Twitter.
Well, that's why I think Twitter, because
you and I probably share that. Yeah, the danger would be Twitter and a bottle of red wine, and there's nothing I wouldn't say.
Yeah,
and I end up having to apologize every Sunday to anybody I've ever met anyway, just to meet them face to face. So if I go on Twitter, I'm afraid it will be much worse. But yeah.
So in terms of writing, Tim, you have a vast experience of stage and screen. Can we chat first of all about teachers, because that's one you were the creator of as well. How did that come about, and Was it a pleasant experience, or was it, no? All right.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I probably need to invoke my solicitor before I be careful. No, I'll tell you exactly what it was like. What happened is the best bit, or the interesting bit, I think. Anyway, Channel 4 had commissioned me. I just written 1.5 hour film, and out of that, I got a brilliant agent in London. The BBC had made that film and stuff, and they put me. A brilliant agent, who, by the way, was Alan Radcliffe, whose son was Daniel Radcliffe.
Wow.
He was only a small boy at the time. Anyway, Alan had arranged for me to meet up with a load of producers and people in London, and I hooked up with this woman called Caroline Ulton, who liked what I wrote, and got me to help me get a commission with Channel 4 to write scripts. So Channel 4, I was writing the series, and they greenlit this series, which was to be set in Belfast, filmed in 1997, I think it would have been.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about young professionals in Belfast, these people straight out of university who were actually, it was all about the post-ceasefire generation. Right, we've got a ceasefire now, we've got a new future. All of a sudden, people are buying houses and people are being optimistic. So it was all about that generation. Anyway, they Channel 4 greenlit that, and then 7 weeks before the shoot was supposed to start, they pulled the plug for a combination of reasons. But my heart was absolutely broke because I'd spent a long time working on it. I'd written 4 of the 6 episodes, it was all done. We were casting it and everything. Anyway, my heart was broke. 12 months later, Jonathan Young, who was one of the producers involved in that, was then working with Channel 4. And he came back to me and he said, "Do you remember those characters you had in that show? There was one of them particularly who was a teacher." I said, "Would you be interested in writing characters like that and setting them in a school? The kind of same tone, the same kind of idea of young people trying to be authority figures."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "God, yeah, of course, I'd love to do that." I said, "Can I set it in Belfast?" And he went, "No." Okay, right, fine. So it was never an option to set it in Belfast, but it was his idea that it would be a comedy drama set in a school.
Okay.
They were my characters. I had tremendous fun working with Jonathan himself directly, getting the thing up and going, writing the pilot episode, writing the series outline. And then we brought it to Tiger Aspect, one of the biggest independent companies in the UK, who put their clout behind it, and they made it. And from then on, it wasn't so much fun anymore.
Yeah.
So it was. Do you know what it was? Cliche. It was a baptism of fire. I'm realizing this, by the way. This laptop makes all my clothes look purple. Not actually. So the color scheme is covered. I don't look sort of pink. Well, I do, but anyway. It was a baptism of fire because I was young in my writing career, and I was dealing with some pretty tough characters. As who shall remain nameless, but she knows who she is. Anyway, and so there was a clash from the very beginning. There was some people call it a personality clash. I would call it bullying. But anyway, we don't need to take that any further. It ended up being a very fraught process writing that first series. So I wrote the beginning, the middle, and the end episodes of that, and I had nothing to do with any subsequent series. Which suited both me and the production team. But anyway,
what did you were you able to take positives from that in terms of your next writing experience of not necessarily being more guarded, but treading a bit more carefully?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. The positives are I learned how brutal a process it can be. So one needs to be very guarded about one's self-esteem going into those things. I suppose I did take things personally when I shouldn't have. But I also learned the extent to which it is collaborative. Of course, I work in theatre like yourself. Theatre's where I came from. So I always knew that it was collaborative. I always knew that you have to listen to what other people say and you have to take opinions on board and all of that. But I don't think I fully appreciated the extent of that. So yes, that's a positive. I learned the extent to which you're creating something that within a machine.
Yeah.
And the machine if the machine doesn't work, no matter what you put into it, it won't happen. So every part of the machine needs to work.
Yeah.
And every part of the machine needs to work well for it to be a good show in the end, But yeah.
And then
look, it's still, I've huge, I'm so proud of it. It's still, and I'm horrified to realize that just a few weeks ago was the 20th anniversary of the broadcast of the first episode.
wow.
Jesus. So at first I went, yay! And then I went, Christ, I'm getting old.
And then in terms of that as an experience to where you created something from scratch, you were involved in Minder as well. So that's a very different thing.
That was one of the best writing experiences I ever had, because I had a fantastic relationship with producer Sean O'Connor and the various directors and the actors too. Shane Ritchie and Lex Shrapnel particularly were great to work with.
Yeah.
And they were. Is that your doorbell or mine?
It's mine. I somebody else will get it. Sorry.
Of course, it's not mine because that's not what my doorbell sounds like. But that. What was great fun? Oh yeah, they were really respectful to the writing. That was the other thing.
Right. Okay.
You know, they would kind of go, okay, this scene isn't working. They would phone you from set to say, we're having trouble with such and such. What do you think we should do about it? Whereas in other shows, you don't get that phone call.
Yeah,
and you wait until you see the edited and you go, what did they do? Why did they cut that line, or why did they change that? You know what I mean? So I really enjoyed that. It was a very respectful system. But the other thing, you're working within a framework. Everybody knows Minder. I look very small. That's because I've shrunk down. Everybody knows of our generation anyway.
Yeah.
We all knew Minder and loved it. And I think that we were messing with the crown jewels. So I think there was always going to be people who go, why would you do that? It can't be good.
Yeah.
So critically, we were, let's say, it was mixed response.
Yeah.
Because you're comparing it to
classic iconic TV.
Absolutely, classic iconic TV. So we were never going to do that. We were never going to reach that again.
Yeah.
But we're working within a framework that you kind of go, okay, these two misfit guys, small time criminals who get themselves in trouble, and every episode has a complete story.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, now when you look at it, that's kind of old fashioned. Very few TV shows work like that now. I'm just trying to think even what, apart from the American ones, the CSI shows or and even those are a lot fewer than there used to be.
So they would be more episode of the week, like a complete package.
That's right. They'd be more of yes, exactly that. That now seems to, especially in terms of UK or Irish TV, that it only seems to me now that it's a comedy, a sitcom that allows for a story of the week, and that's in a 30-minute thing. So it's very, very rare. I'm trying to think now. Oh, there was the J.K. Rowling one that was on BBC recently, Strike, I think it was called.
Right.
I think that was sort of story. Oh yeah, the obvious example, Murder in Paradise.
Yeah.
That's the kind. But look at how rare that is. But also with no disrespect at all. Look at how old-fashioned it is as an idea.
Yeah.
There's kind of nostalgia for our TV where you get a different body every week, you know. So, but I loved doing Minder, and I really did. It was also brilliant to meet and work with all those guest actors. Jeez, we had some brilliant. We had oh my God, Rory Kinnear, Mira Sayal, Rick Mail. I got to meet one of my boyhood heroes. Rick Mail, and there's a big long list. That's only the top of it. Maureen Lipman. Anyway, these people were all absolutely brilliant. Actors love that as well. You're playing a guest role in an episode, so it's only going to take you a week, 2 weeks to shoot.
Yeah.
And in and out, lovely. So so I love doing that show. Boy, that seems a long time ago. I think it was 2009. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what has been your favorite writing experience to date? Obviously, you've done a vast amount in the last few years, but what has been the most enjoyable one?
I have. There's only one that's head and shoulders above the rest. Is working on Versailles, which creatively was a fantastic experience. It was never easy. It was always demanding. But the best part was I had an apartment in Paris for 18 months and 2 return flights every month. And it was brilliant. it was really brilliant. It was great. I was flying out to Paris on a Monday morning, coming back on a Friday evening. It was like I was commuting to Paris. It was brilliant. I had a bike. I used to cycle. I had an apartment in the second arrondissement in the centre, and I had to cycle out to the studios, which was like a 45-minute cycle. But you're there. I felt practically Parisian.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was, but it was the scale of it as well, which was exciting to work on because the studio sets were absolutely enormous. The crew was bigger than anything I've ever seen. The way they do things in France, everything is very, very well heavily unionized, of course, but the extent of each department is enormous. There was like, I think there were 20 people in costume, and they were hand making every costume. Everything had, the detail that the whole show went into or to was extraordinary. It was also really good writing experience. That, of course, that should be top of the list there. I joined the series halfway through the second season, and it the timing just suited me really well. I was in to write a guest, I was writing one, maybe two episodes, but during the process of the second series, the creators, the two of the executive producers, sort of, not to put it too fine a point, fell out with the other producers. So there was no editorial hand steering the series through towards the end. So it was a ship with no captain. It was kind of panicky. So I happened to be there and was very glad to step in and say, I can help you out. So, and then I was show running as such.
Wow.
The third series, yeah, which was fantastic. So myself and the English writer called Andrew Bamfield, oh boy, we spent weeks, months and months devising what would the whole overall story be, how to break it down into 10 episodes, choose the writers, have a say in the directors and some of the casting and all that. It was fantastic. It was a great experience. Of course, we wanted there to be a fourth series, but we got to the point where we would have had to make a lot more shit up. We'd followed the real story of Louis the 14th. The people kind of say, oh, it was ridiculous. Some of the story was ridiculous. But I love pointing out the fact that it's true.
Yeah.
We were dealing with a wild man in a crazy time where they did have satanic worship, and they did sacrifice children and things like that. They were taking drugs off their heads. They were, wild things going on. That's not to mention the sex. It was at times it might have seemed far-fetched, but it was based on reality.
So, in terms of you brought into that in a writer's room, so it's probably writers room are probably more commonplace now, but it would have mainly been an American thing. So when stuff gets made here, there's either one or two writers usually, and that's it. Whereas a writer's room, it's a full group of people. Can you tell us about the kind of that experience, and also exactly what the role of a showrunner is?
Well, I'll answer them backwards. Exactly, the role of a showrunner is kind of amorphous, kind of non-specified, depending on who you are and what the situation is. We never got the official credit showrunners of the third series. But what was in the contract was that we were to be available on set as much as we could if we weren't actually writing. So between myself and Andrew, one of us was available on set to basically problem solve, to be a troubleshooter, but also to advise, as I said, to choose the other writers who have a say in the choice of the directors and have a say in the final edits. That's the only time I have had input into the editing of the thing. I was sent a rough cut of the episode, and I would give sometimes extensive notes as to, you're cutting out of that scene too slowly. Why don't you drop that line and do, some quite specific stuff. And I loved having that kind of input at that broader level. So to put it simply, I think a showrunner is someone who has input at all levels of the production. So we had it, but the other thing is, you'll notice very few TV shows actually have the credit of showrunner. They don't. They tend to have the creator
Yeah.
who would also happen to have an executive producer credit. That usually means they're the sort of showrunner, but that all depends on the nature of the. It's very much something that we imported from America. When you go back to shows like The Sopranos and The Wire and all the big HBO hits,
Yeah.
I think the whole world of television drama noticed then, say, hang on a minute, how come these shows are so good? And you go, well, the reason they're so good is that someone with great creative ability is in charge, and one person or maybe two people where the buck stops. And that's really why those big American shows have been so good. And I think they've tried to, the UK especially has tried to import that as an idea. That's why you have big shows like Line of Duty, for instance,
Yeah.
or Bodyguard, where Jed Mercurio is definitely the showrunner. With his reputation as a writer and executive producer, and now producer, he now has a full understanding of the whole spectrum of what's involved in making a TV show.
Yeah.
So he will have a healthy opinion. You know, you'd be foolish not to listen to what he has to say, especially if it was his idea in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's go back to, so that's what the showrunner is. The writers' room is less. It's not as prevalent as you might think. People have tried it. I've been involved in a number of writers' rooms, some much more successful than others. In Versailles, we had a really good. I ran a writers' room for Versailles, which was myself, Andrew, and two other writers, and it was brilliant. For a week, the four of us sat in a room. In fact, maybe it was 2 weeks. I sat in a room and talked about everything to do with 10 episodes of drama. Now, to really use that, these other two writers were writing 2 episodes each, but to really use the writers' room properly, we should have had another meeting and another meeting and another meeting, you know, to really make sure that the guest writers have complete investment in what they're writing. But I'm afraid the schedule beat us, and we sort of ducked out of or we lost faith in it, and we decided, no, we'll tell you what to write and just go and write it, which is much less satisfying and a lot less satisfying for the guest writers. And I know because I've been in that position myself. But writers' rooms can be crazy. Casualty, for instance, you have writers' rooms and writers' conferences, which can be fabulous fun. But at times it's a bit like a kind of a free for all, because you could have 15 writers around a table, and everybody's trying to be impressive.
Yeah.
You know, you're all there because they've decided they want you to write 1 episode at least, but everybody wants to make an impact and wants to, you know. So there can be a bit of can sometimes seem to be a bit competitive, not in a healthy way, and people feel the need to say something even though they don't really need to. But oh shit, I haven't said anything for 45 minutes. I better contribute here, you know.
Yeah.
So I kind of think it's a fine balance. I'm trying to think of good and bad. Yeah, we had a writers' room for Das Boot, the German TV series in Munich, which was run by Andrew Bampfield, who's English. And there were myself and 2 other writers who were English speakers. And then there were 2 German people there, 2 German writers, and then German producer. The point is we're all trying to contribute to discussing an idea, but people are having to translate what they're hearing into their thoughts and then turn those thoughts back into English.
Yeah.
Which is difficult. And it didn't work. It didn't work. But I'm afraid it didn't work simply because of the language gap, you know. And I felt for those guys because they were, like, you know, the energy of a bunch of people. In fact, even now, Mick, you and I'm rambling anyway. You're not actually, but the speed with which an idea shifts from one into another and then back into, if it's working in second language, that's hard to keep up with, let alone contribute. So, but writers' rooms really work it can work very well in a show like Casualty. It's essential in a show like EastEnders, or that where people are working. You really are working as a team, man. If I do that in this episode, then you could do that in that episode. Yeah, great idea. You know. Yeah.
So how do you learn the skills of working well in the writers' room, or is it just simply something that you have to do?
I tell you what, I don't know actually. I suppose the skill is to listen and remain attentive. That's the hard part, actually, and not to just go off on your own train of thought, but to maintain. God, I'm stating the bleeding obvious there, am I? I don't know, because I don't even know the skill. Well, look, for a writer's room to work well, it needs to be managed, chaired by someone who's completely across it. That's what it's about. And if that person's even slightly off the ball, it can be very difficult. I mean, I think part of the issue why the writers' rooms struggle in, excuse me, in this part of the world is because writers' egos are too involved in it. And I know I freely admit that that's myself. So, like I say about the, casual, you want the producers to notice that you said something really interesting. And the reason why writers' rooms work in America so well is because it's less about ego and it's more about money. Because if you've got 10 writers sitting around a table and they're all desperate to impress the producers so they get the next episode commission, it's because they all need the money. Yeah. So you're fighting for it. If all of those 10 writers around the table are all paid 50 grand each to be there, they're much more generous with their ideas. They're much more generous with each other's ideas because, and that is how it works in America. Those teams of writers, those sitcom shows, that the big shows that were, and you'd see a list of 7 or 8 writers sometimes, they're all paid a fortune. And that's how it works. And that does work,
Yeah.
I'm not really answering your question, the skills to be in a writer's room. I don't, I tell you what, it's to do with, the most important skill of a screenwriter, maybe, this is dangerous now, is to be able to accept when an idea is better than the one that you had, right? Even if it's just to do with one line, or where the punctuation is, or who says that line, whether it's one character or another. A good screenwriter will listen when somebody has that. If a producer or a director or an actor makes that suggestion, and you don't take it into account. No, it's fine. I like it the way it was. That's not good.
Yeah.
A good screenwriter will take that on board and go, hang on, maybe what they've suggested is better. Take it on board, think about it, try it out. If it's better, great, go with it. So I think that the thing, the collaborative nature of screenwriting and theatre and radio drama means that it's always going to evolve. The idea of a script that can't be changed is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially for screen, because the camera might be able to do something, or the actor might be able to do something that the script couldn't. You know what I mean? So you always have to allow that to be possible. And I think more and more that's the case because more and more TV drama is more like film, and the audience watches TV drama more like it watches film. You turn the lights down, and you want no distractions, so you are prepared to watch a big long quiet sequence rather than needing to be bang bang bang. For that reason, it means the camera and the effects and the subtleties have more chance to come to the fore. Do you know what I mean? Some things that may not be in the script. So yeah.
And I suppose then that will carry on that if to be a good showrunner would be the same thing, because you're then involved in multi departments, not just the writing department. So it's got to be best idea that makes sense both financially and artistically wins.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, the thing to remember about almost every TV show, not every, lots of these TV dramas, is that there's a different directors directing different blocks. Usually when we had Versailles 10 episodes, we had 3 directors, so it was 4, 3 and 3, I think it was. Yeah, so totally different direct. Now those directors, each director is overseeing costume, makeup, hair, script, all the different departments. But they're only there for those 4 episodes. Then they're gone and another director comes in. Now those directors, they're still across all those departments, but they can't make radical changes. So someone has to be over and above all of that. So if you like, that's what the showrunner is, making sure everything's consistent.
Do you think your experience as an actor and as a director has helped your writing career?
I think it's probably made me a better writer. I don't know if it's advanced my career any, because I think it's made me a better writer, because I think, okay, all writers say the dialogue in their head, or sometimes even say it out loud. You know, all writers do. But I suppose I think I write better dialogue because I was an actor.
Yeah.
I think I'm better at shaping a story, plotting a story, because I was a director. I think that has helped me. So yeah, I think putting it all together has yeah. I do think though, there have been times when I've been confused as to what I am, or rather, other people have confused it. You know, where, oh, you're a writer. Oh, I thought you were an actor, kind of thing.
Yeah.
People, you know, people in the business are, as you know, are very conservative in many ways. So they don't like the idea of you stepping into different boxes. You kind of want to stay there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You kind of go, yeah. So as soon as anybody found out I was a writer, that was it. Nobody ever came looking for me to ask me for anything. You know what I mean? You go, right. And I've done some acting again recently, and there's kind of, oh, all right. Oh, I didn't know you did that. I go, fuck hell. I did a lot of acting a long time ago, but I did it. But you know the way it goes.
And what about stage? Do you think you'll return to directing or writing for stage, or is it just too difficult, or is it something
at this point?
Yeah.
No, at this point, I have no desire. I'm sorry, I have desire to, but I see no. For me, writing for theatre and theatre in general have been a labour of love, but it wasn't one that loved me back quite as much as I wanted it to.
Right. Okay.
The last year, I found I had to push and push and push to get, to get work on. It's just the amount of effort required to do it, the amount of time it takes to do it, and then it's all over in a few weeks, and it just seems to be, I don't know. God, Jesus, Mick, it's a good question. I don't have a simple answer to it, actually, because it is theatre. It is my first love. It is what I wish I wanted to write more for theatre, or maybe the other way to put it is, I wish there was more opportunities. And I'll also be honest and say, I have TV companies and producers and broadcasters in contact wanting to know what I'm doing for screen.
Yeah.
There's not a single theatre company has ever come looking for my writing, seriously. And I kind of go, fuck, if that's, so what's the point in me going around knocking on doors when I've got other people coming to my door? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I also think I've always believed writing for theatre is, you to write successfully for theatre, for me, it should be about something that is really, really important to you as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I sort of tried to write a light-hearted stuff, and I couldn't do it. I need to be angry about something to write a theatre play.
Yeah.
I needed one. I think I've always believed the theatre plays can be used to change the world, whereas TV can be, but really the chances of you getting anywhere near that stuff are very slim. It's a heightened form of artful form of entertainment. I suppose then in time as well, I'm out of practice of writing for the theatre. So I'm kind of sad about that. I really am. I'm also very sad about the fact that, oh God, all those years ago, Jesus, 1988, we started Tinderbox.
Well, I was just about to ask, isn't it a strange thing where you started, you're one of the first people to start a theatre company, which didn't happen back then, that looked specifically at new writing. And here you are 20, 30 years later, at the opposite end. I mean, that's
I think it's natural. But it's natural that these things happen. That you develop into something that you didn't expect. As a writer, that's what's happened to me. I never set out to write just TV. I don't know what. I started, the first thing I wrote was a TV film for the BBC. I mentioned it before. Um, but then I wrote for the theatre. Um, but I also think, I mean, there's a simple truth. I have kids, I have a family, and I've now 2 kids at university. I kind of go, on a mortgage,
Yeah.
you go, the theatre, in my experience, wasn't, I kind of got married and settled down and went, right, well, I need to pay the bills somehow. And theatre didn't work for me in that way. But I don't ever remember sitting down making that decision.
It
You know,
just happened.
it just sort of evolved that way. But the other thing is, yeah, theatre does require so much energy from, to keep a theatre company ticking over takes so much devotion and energy that I loved doing it. It suited me to do that back in 1988 through to fuck. I can't remember when I left actually, but it was more, I was chair of Tinderbox for ages. It was like 20 years of my life or something, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, but I have such pride in it all, and one of the things that I'm most proud of is the fact that it's still going. And
Yeah.
Paul's just doing such a good job of it. You know, it's got no, it has absolutely nothing to do with it now, and wish it all the very, very best of luck, because you do have to hand these things over. You know, these things have to go through transition. It would be a bit ridiculous if I was still part of Tinderbox.
Yeah.
You know, because it is about it was always a sort of a youthful energy, and it's right that it still is. You know.
And was it just the need to create on your own terms that got you to go, let's just give it a go? Or
yeah, but it wasn't that we were desperate to be desperate to communicate our messages to the world, but we just wanted to do plays. We wanted to be actors, and we wanted to put things on that we didn't see. We wanted to work in the theatre, and we couldn't see any other way to do it. Let me see. It was only about a year after we started Tinderbox that we actually went, hang on a minute, nobody's doing new plays. And we had people coming to us saying, would you read this? We're going, oh my God, a playwright is giving us a play. Jesus, nobody's read this. We didn't know that this was even what happened. So then we put out, there was a hilarious moment where I think we put out a press release, and it was in all the papers. So I think James Coyle put it in the Irish News, and Charlie Fitzgerald put it in the newsletter, and whatever. And within a week, we had like 50 scripts.
wow.
And it was like, no, I'm exaggerating there no. Anyway, it was like, shit, what have we done? Right? And now we've got to read all these. We don't know what we're looking for. We were just a bunch of kids at a university who wanted to be actors. So we started reading through it. And I tell you what, I learned more reading all those new plays in that first 10 years, I think, than I ever did out of anything else, and working with all those new writers, and then working with new writers like, well, as they were. I directed Derek Carville's first play, and I directed Gary Mitchell's first stage play. And God, when I think back, I have such fondness for those days and those guys, those experiences, they were brilliant. We learned an awful lot through trial and error. We made a lot of mistakes. Jesus, we picked some plays that we just shouldn't have done, and we ended up touring them to Ballymena and playing in front of 13 people, and but it was exciting stuff. It was exciting. They were very exciting. Jesus, Mick, I'm feeling old. Thanks for that.
Well, tell us this: if you are going to continue writing for TV, would you go back to direct somebody else's theatre piece? You're talking about directing now for those writers. Would that interest you?
Oh yeah, I would love that. I would really love that. I acted recently. I've acted in a couple of short films, and I have found that the most exciting thing, to be in a room with a bunch of actors and discussing a script, going, how do we do this? How do we make this work? It was actually with Dan Gordon and Sarah Gordon had written the script, and it was with Brass Neck.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I was in one of the Brass Neck films last couple of weeks ago, and just in a room with a half dozen actors, just kind of, oh my God, it's so exciting doing that. so the idea of directing on someone else's play, I would love that. It's a long time since I've done that, actually, an awful long time. But I would love that. Yeah, there's nothing quite like that.
Well, Tim, hopefully it happens. Hopefully we'll get to see more of your work on stage. Thank you very much for giving me your time. I really appreciate it.
Very happy to talk to you, Mike. Yeah.
No bother at all.